I became a TV and film producer because I wanted to do something totally different than in my earlier career. Had to figure out quickly, how do we fill those up so it looks like there's whiskey or bourbon in these particular bottles. A lot of times when you see people driving in films and TV series, they're not actually driving down the road. My film education was quite non-traditional. One of those things that I use is basically set up my calendar. I think I'm an anomaly. You don't see many people coming from human resources or business into film. My name's Mark Stewart, and I'm a TV and film producer for the past 4 years. I'm a proud alum of The Ohio State University and got my degree in business and HR here, and I have worked in the human resources field for 34 years after I graduated, and really loved that and was very successful, and it allowed me to retire early and go to a second career and pursue a different passion and start exploring other fields. It was really more, I was ready to do something different. You know, I didn't know I wanted to be a filmmaker until actually after I retired, because I knew I wanted to write and explore. But as I started exploring, that it became clear to me that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to write the screenplay, and then when I found out more about the independent film industry and that you can make a lot of these indie films for very little money, I decided, I'd like to actually then be involved in making this into a film too, and meeting the right people that could help make that happen. I really do a lot of different things as a TV and film producer, really getting involved from the development of a project. I work with a director in most cases, because I have a person I'm working with and who has identified a number of different projects that she'd like to direct, and she's co-written a number of those, and really take it from the beginning stages to try to find support, partners, sponsors, financiers, all the way to the end to get to distribution. I think it has to tug on your emotions somehow. It has to have that emotional line to your heart. You know, you have to feel something, come out of that film feeling like, okay, I did feel something, whether you were scared, whether you laughed, whether you cried, whatever it was, you have to have that emotional connection. It has to be a story that connects with people. And if you can create that kind of story that connects with people, you have a great product. It changes quite a bit from day to day, but I may be on the phone with a potential sales agent that we're talking with to represent our project, whether it's a TV series or a film. I may be working on a log line for the particular project to really be able to tell what that's about in a very short couple of sentences. Working with the director to try to identify, who are some of the best talent that we can attract to this particular project, and then talking to the agents of that talent and see whether or not we're able to bring them on board onto that particular project. Talking to potential funders and sponsors about how we can get them on board. So a lot of it is really talking to people across the globe, actually. Working with very creative and talented people, whether it's cast or crew, I've found a lot of very talented people I've been blessed to be able to work with and learn a lot from, and just having that kind of flexibility and freedom to work in a whole different industry than I have in the past, and learn about that industry, learn about the paths that each of these people have taken to get where they are. That's probably been the most gratifying.
Can you describe your feelings when your film was presented at a festival and you saw the reaction of people?
Yes, I remember that because we premiered in Austin, Texas, and it was so exciting to see people in the theater really take a look at the film for the first time, and I spent about as much time watching the people as I did on the film, because I wanted to see what kind of reaction for it was really our world premiere, and we weren't well known, people didn't know anything anything about us, but it was really gratifying to see the kind of reaction. And then they did a Q&A afterwards, so they had some really great questions, and both the cast and crew and myself were there to be able to address those. It was just a tremendous experience, and we did that in festivals after that as well, which was a lot of fun. I think it's getting those initial sponsors and financiers, and it's getting the backing, especially when you're not well-known in the industry. So it's getting some of that backing, but we were very fortunate since we shot in Columbus. We had a lot of venues, 15, 16 different venues where we shot in. So we moved around a lot, but we found people that were willing to let us shoot in their venues, and a lot like performance scenes in various clubs and bars around town that gave us the opportunity to shoot there. I think that was probably one of the biggest challenges and time consuming, is just getting those initial sponsors, backers, to really get them on board, especially on a project that and working with people that maybe aren't well known. It's not maybe as glamorous as people might envision being a film and TV producer. There's a lot of just hard work and a lot of business pieces to it, and making sure do we have everybody that signed the appropriate agreements? Do we have the right licensing for music to be able to use in the film? There's all these different things that you have to have, make sure that's part of the process that I think a lot of people would be surprised about. A lot of times when you see people driving in films and TV series, they're not actually driving down the road. For instance, we had a flatbed truck that we put the van on that the band was driving, and so we had the camera in front of them so you could see them, and you could see the trees going by and the traffic and the road and everything, but they were actually on the back of a flatbed truck. The driver wasn't driving that vehicle, they were actually sitting strapped down onto a flatbed truck. So that's another piece of movie magic that kind of struck me. It's a little different than you always think, oh, they must be driving and they're steering and you see the road behind them. No, that's not the case, because it'd be tough to both do your lines and act and pay close attention to the road, all at the same time. So that's how they do that a lot of times. I would have thought it impossible for a first-time filmmaker, even though I worked with a number of seasoned professionals, that we were able to win awards on the festival circuit. So, by winning Best Feature at one of the festivals, winning Best Original Score, I would have never thought that we could do that with our first film. The other thing is just finding your audience. We were able to find some people that have followed us on social media for years now, actually, since even before we began shooting the film, and then all the way through shooting and through once we have it out there on Amazon, that really have enjoyed it tremendously and recommend it to other people, and are very engaged in our social media. So that's another thing that I would have thought impossible, is to get that many people that might be interested in a silly movie like this. So. One of those things that I use is basically set up my calendar. Make sure there's a reminder, and then so that'll come up and say, oh yeah, I need to call this person, or I need to spend some time focused on this particular issue and get that finished. Having good scheduling, understanding what all goes into that, because the cast has to be there at a certain time, the crew at a certain time, there's an amount of time for setup of everything, and then really the smallest amount of time is the actual acting on the set. Making sure you have some contingency in there. Those are my biggest productivity tips, is make sure something doesn't fall through the cracks. My film education was quite non-traditional. Most people go to film school and then learn about the ins and outs and understand both from the business to the creative to the artistic side of it. And I think that's a good idea, is to really, if you're thinking about that, check into film school, look at the different opportunities there, and get that a formal education. Mine was basically online. I learned and through books. and working with other people. So you can learn that way. You know, if for instance you're in a career and you're not enjoying it and you want to do something different, it's good to talk to people in that field and figure out how did they get there, what did they learn about that, does that sound like that's a field that's a match for me, something that I could enjoy, and then kind of go from there and figure out the best way to learn about that career. Really focused on independent filmmakers. There's a lot of those types of both articles as well as YouTube videos that really help take an independent filmmaker from the beginning to the end. So it's really just finding out as much of those, all the way from, you know, getting your film funded, getting your project funded, and getting the sponsors, and all the way to getting distribution. It's a business like any other business, and you need to treat it as such and make sure you think about all those different components. Tenacity. You have to be tenacious, you have to be persistent. There's a lot of follow-up. Communication is very important. Communicating with all kinds of different parties, you know, whether they're partners, sponsors, cast, crew, having a good ability to communicate effectively and keeping that communication flow going constructively and positively. I think those are really some of the key skills, and having some business knowledge. That's not common at all, because I've seen people that may be doing something in the film or TV industry. For instance, my director, his full-time job is as an editor for a very large, well-known company. The director I'm working with now too, she was originally an actress and did a lot of work as an actress and decided she wanted to work on the other side of the camera and had a lot of skills to do that, and she's now doing a terrific job as a director. I think I'm an anomaly. You don't see many people coming from human resources or business into film. Not difficult. You can set up an LLC. You know, it's just a legal kind of limited liability corporation, put a name on it, and then be able to basically do business under the name of that LLC. It's not real expensive either to set that up. If you want to do that yourself, it's something that can be done with a little bit of legal assistance, but there's now a whole bunch of online legal assistance as well. That's what people will typically do, and it could just, again, be one person. A lot of these are one or two people that are part of that company. One of the trends is that it's less and less expensive to make a film, because in the past it used to be on film, and now in a digital world it's really brought down the costs to make film and even to do special effects and do a lot of different things. Another one is the way that Netflix and Disney and Amazon are disrupting the whole distribution pathway. There's a lot of competition for that content, whether it's a TV series or movies, whatever it happens to be. That disruption, you're going to see a lot more of that as well over the next 3 to 5 years. You know, with Apple now coming into that whole arena, that will be the go-to place to find your content. And so that has really been a key trend and disruptor in the industry. We shot one of the scenes at a place called Ace of Cups. It's a bar venue, and Marcy Mays was very gracious to allow us to shoot during the day, since they really are open primarily in the evenings. So we shot during the day, and we'd happened to have one of the sponsors that our producer was able to get us was Jack Daniels. That's good to have them as a sponsor, but basically what they provided us was a box of bottles that were all empty. And we realized later, well, yeah, they can't ship these bottles full, so they had to send us empty bottles. But once we decided to use those in the scene, we had to figure out quickly, how do we fill those up so it looks like there's whiskey or bourbon in these particular bottles. And Marcy was had the idea of, well, I could brew some tea and we might be able to put some tea in those, and it has kind of the same color and maybe a little different consistency. So she did a mix of tea and some water and put those in the bottles, and then we used that when we were shooting the scene. And it was because of her creativity we were able to make it look like it's the real thing on camera. I'm grateful for all the people that I've worked with, the talented and creative people that I've been able to learn from, to really observe, to be able to be a part of a process where we've created these products. That's what I'm grateful for, is really the people that I've been able to work with and meet through this whole process. Be persistent. Whether it's trying to find the right backers early on, the sponsors, the partners, as well all the way through the process. Nothing's going to come easy. They're not going to just hand it to you. Be persistent both in how you learn what you're doing, how you can do it better, and in your follow-up, and making sure that you're following up appropriately and connecting with the right people, and just continue to learn, lifelong. Hunger is a key one. I think it's such a basic need. It's so crucial that what we can do to help raise awareness of the issue, and it's right here in our own community. Sometimes you think about hunger on a global basis. We find it right here in our own community and with our own neighbors. Food is health. If you can get healthy food to people, they're more likely to be healthier and more contribute better to the society. So that's probably a key issue outside of my whole film business that I've been most focused on.
What's your favorite food?
You think that'd be easier, but I like so many of them. I guess I'd have to say pizza.
What's your favorite thing to do in your free time?
Music, live music festivals.
What's your favorite country to visit?
Switzerland, where my sister lives.
What is one thing you cannot live without?
Intellectual stimulation, curiosity.
What's your favorite book?
One of my favorite authors is John Grisham. Reading all those legal thrillers have been very good, and then novels of adventure and suspense.
Favorite show or movie?
This is Spinal Tap, a mockumentary about another clueless band.
What makes you sad?
Hunger, seeing hungry children.
What makes you happy?
Seeing hungry children have the opportunity to get healthy food, not only get well fed, but to thrive as a result of that.
You should get into my profession if you are
nuts. It's not one I would recommend to a lot of people, because I'm not in it for the money or the fame or the glory. It's just something that I enjoy doing. You should get into it if it's something that you just have to do because you just love doing this.
You should not get into my profession if
you're not flexible and have some other source of regular income. I think of one of the nice benefits of becoming a filmmaker is when I noticed that one of my lifelong bands that I've followed, the legendary British band called Foghat, that they were coming through town while we were actually going to be shooting the film. And so I decided, well, hey, how cool would it be if I could get a member of Foghat to do a cameo or a special appearance in our film? So I found their management company email address and sent them an email and said, hey, we're going to be shooting while you're in town. Would there be any opportunity to have a member from the band be in our film as a special appearance or just a short cameo? I was very gratified to hear the message back, basically 3 words, sounds like fun. Being able to meet somebody like that you've admired for a long time, a big musical inspiration to me for many, many years, meet him in person, talk with him, have him be a part of this project, just meant the world to me. Had I not been producing this film, I would have never had that opportunity to meet Roger Earl of Foghat and had that kind of experience and have him do a special appearance in the film.